Oh my gosh, what the heck was that? Oh my gosh. What is that? What? Okay. The heck? Okay, who keeps turning off the music when I stand up? That's creepy. Alright. If it's not scary enough in here. Well, I'm getting out of this grocery store. What's happening, guys? James Blonde here with MMOHuts.com, finally getting a more personal chance to take an early look at the much anticipated open world zombie survival game from Sony Online Entertainment known as H1Z1. Now this game is going to be the free-to-play answer to games like DayZ, Rust, and plenty of other survival games out there that are already hugely popular. The game has been in development for a good part of a year now and is built using a custom version of the Forge Light engine from SOE used to make PlanetSide 2. So it offers the developers a lot of useful tools in order to create a game with dynamic weather, day and night cycles, immersive AI, and it is absolutely perfect for tons of players on each server. So, as of recently, January 15th, the game went into an alpha early access on Steam, and to be honest, it's kind of had a stumbling start. There's been a lot of bugs and server downtime, but even in the short time frame it's been released so far, the developers are fixing problems on what seems to be an hourly basis. So far there's been some problems with the loot system and plenty of other game mechanics not working, but I've seen a lot of things fixed in a really short time frame, and honestly it's not keeping players from trying it out. The servers are very full, and there are about 20 to 40,000 players on at any given point in time, when the servers are up, of course. So with that said, keep in mind that a lot of what you're going to see here is changing, will change, because as John Smedley said from the get-go, their desire is to be transparent and involve players in the development process. That's why they went into early access, because that actually is just as important as making the game itself. So for now, I'll show you guys what the game has to offer as is, and I'll probably come back and update these videos showing off the game's progression later on. Alright, so previously, as in like yesterday, when you logged in, you got a list of servers and didn't really have much in terms of filtering. Now you can actually search through the servers by region and popularity as well as alphabetical, and you'll notice you've got about, I don't know, around 200 servers to choose from. I think they were wanting to go around 200 servers from launch, and then you've got your private and event servers. All of them are really populated, as you can tell. It's definitely not hard to find other players roaming around after playing about 10 to 15 minutes, which is pretty often considering that the map is huge. You've got both US and European servers, and then you've got several different rule set variations to choose from, and a legend here to indicate what rules are applied to the server, like whether or not PvP is allowed, PvE only, first person only, because you can go back and forth from third person and first person in this game if it's allowed on the server by pressing T. I personally like first person, but they both, have their uses. Whether or not all of your learned recipes get cleared if you die and have to respawn, and then headshots only. I guess that one applies more to zombies? I don't know. The little green dot here indicates that you have a character made on that server already, and right now there doesn't seem to be a limit on how many characters you can make at once. So you can easily have different characters based on each rule set that you may prefer, but you can't server hop, of course. So once you make a character there, it is there until you delete it, and each time you make a new character you have to choose a different username. And it looks like private servers are a thing. Talking with the developers at SOE Live last year, they didn't want to do this, but I've seen what they've done now. The private servers and their rule sets are based on the community. See, what happens is the community decides to get together and use their pledge tokens to make a specific private server. After playing the game for about 5 hours, you receive a pledge token that you can use to cast a vote for a private server. You only get one free one per year, otherwise you have to go and purchase one, and you can only use 2 pledge tokens per year as well. So you really have to decide. You can't jump from one to the next. So although they are a little tricky to start up yourself, they are there. I don't have a whole lot of information on how to do that, but that's basically how it works. They also have event servers based on the popular Battle Royale Last Man Standing mod in the DayZ mod days, which is really popular. Apparently SOE licensed Battle Royale and made it an official game mode in H1Z1, so that should be pretty exciting for the competitive players. These event servers are also something you, of course, have to buy a token in order to get in. You do this by either joining in early access, you get a couple of them, or by purchasing them in the market. But with that said, even the regular PvP servers are pretty intense. I definitely suggest teaming up, otherwise you're going to run into players that will try and trick you and then kill you, and maybe even eat you, I'm not even sure. You probably already know this, but I would definitely say trust no one. A lot of times people are just passing by, but yeah, I wouldn't trust them. But yeah, overall it gets pretty competitive, which makes it really fun in my opinion, as long as you don't, get super raged out on these things, especially with the airdrop system that has been reworked now. But I'll talk a little bit more about that in a bit. So no matter what server you end up starting with, you typically spawn right in the middle of a forest, but if you happen to pick the right direction, which could be any, you should be fairly close to some structures where you can start finding some loot. Now currently the loot system is a bit haywire, like I mentioned, so finding stuff is quite nerve-wracking and makes you feel like everyone else and their dog has come through where you're looking and wiped out the entire place for loot. And that's probably what has happened. The regeneration rate on the loot is actually bugged so far. And for now, you'll find yourself going through cabinet after cabinet and car after car looking for stuff until finally, after about the 50th thing you've checked, you find something. Right now, you're better off looking on the ground or on top of tables and stuff. I found both of my AR-15s sitting on a table, almost in plain sight. No bullets, of course, but yeah, maybe the last people that were passing through just missed it. I don't know. But I've got to be honest, I like the way the loot is hiding in plain sight in a sense. It's really camouflaged, honestly, and easy to look over if you don't look carefully. That makes it a lot more challenging, but I definitely like it. So the first challenge I had when starting up for the first time was dealing with hydration and energy. It's still a problem now, but I've learned ways to deal with it. You can see down at the bottom right the various levels that you have to cater to and keep up with. So you've got to eat and drink often, and most of the time the meat that you find is rotten, and the water that you find is stagnant or dirty, and if you consume them, a lot of times it starts affecting your health in various ways. It could be food poisoning or just straight takes health right off the top. So if you're in a pinch, you can actually drink the bad water. Otherwise, you're going to want to purify it by boiling it in a campfire. Sometimes you find purified water bottles lying around, which is great. And other times you can find empty bottles and put dirty water in them and then purify it. And that's basically what you want to do. So you do have mechanics in the game like that. And once you find one resource, like a wood plank, for example, you can turn that into a wood stick and then turn that into an arrow, and that's basically how the process works. It's not really complicated recipes until you get to some of the bigger items. It's pretty straightforward, and they do have a recipe discovery system, so whenever you find a new resource, you can click on the discovery tab here in the inventory itself, and it will give you a new recipe for that item. You do have to do this in order to cook the various meat, I've learned. Apparently you can craft a lot in this game, but I haven't been able to do a lot of crafting on the PvP server for some reason. I did quickly figure out a helpful trick to getting some food and a quick weapon pretty much as soon as you spawn in the forest. If you run through these bushes here and spam the E key, which is the interaction key, you will pick up blackberries and the occasional branch, which you can then use as a weapon, and it's halfway decent. The blackberries themselves give you both energy and hydration, so that's a plus, but it does take a crap ton of them, so I basically just pick them up when traveling through the wooded areas for later, but you'd never want to rely on just this. Eating one blackberry at a time gets really tedious. You can also craft tools and basic weapons like bows and hatchets, for example, and then you can turn around and use the hatchet to cut down trees for more wood or harvest meat from animals to craft more things. The animals, like bears and wolves, are worse than the zombies most of the time. And as you find or craft these items, they do tell you what they can harvest. Like, for example, the crowbar lets you get scrap metal from wrecked cars, and then you can turn that scrap metal into things like a makeshift hatchet. So, like I said, the crafting in the game is pretty intuitive. Also with the crafting, the game has a storage or carry mechanic that makes things a little bit difficult sometimes. In fact, the devs might want to look into redoing this a little bit as one of the issues. But everything has bulk to it. So, starting out, you have only your shirt, pants, and a belt pouch, which might as well be a freaking purse to hold on to stuff. The biggest problem is not when you're carrying things, but more when you're trying to craft stuff. Well, kind of both. A lot of times you have to drop items and use the proximity items window here in order to craft with. And the bow is a bad example because of how big it is, but when you craft a lot of these items, they have so much more bulk than the materials had to craft them. Like, with the bow, you use a stick and a scrap of cloth in order to make it. Those things hardly have any bulk to them, and once you make the bow, it turns into 1500 bulk. Like I said, the bow is a bad example of that, but the same thing goes for the makeshift hatchet, so good luck making a hatchet to hold on to as a spare. And I would say the zombies in the game are pretty challenging. They're definitely going to be changing over time. They follow you for a long ways, and they start to gather up around buildings you went into, and then they get really overwhelming in numbers, as you can imagine. Every once in a while you see a zombie wandering in the rural areas, but there tends to be a boatload more of them in the urban areas. And I thought there were actually more zombies on the PvE servers than the PvP, but as I played more, I found out that definitely wasn't the case. It can be hard to tell when they actually bite you, so it's a little bit difficult to juke them. Your best bet is to take them out with a bow from a distance and then go after them with a melee weapon if they start to close the gap between you. But if they do bite you, you may have minor bleeding, which will slowly drain your health for a long time, or at least until you craft a bandage to heal it up. And if necessary, you can remove your shirt and shred it to make a bandage as well. So for being in early access, the game does have a lot of features. There's already vehicles in the game, but you have to come across one, and most of the time it will need like a battery, spark plugs, and maybe even fuel to run. And the game already has a lot of player-built structures in place and being made. Each one of these panels here has its own durability. That's kind of how that works. On top of that, there are a lot of other features that are going to be added in, like climbing and more items and textures across the already huge map. So a lot of the buildings that you run across right now don't have a whole lot of stuff in them, but they will later on. The nice thing is that you can check the road maps as well in order to see where you are in relation to where you might want to find some loot. Now, as far as the cash shop goes, recently there was a huge problem with the game being pay to win, and this is true. You were originally allowed to airdrop supplies and guns, and they would land pretty much right on top of your head. Well, that turned out to be a bug that made the game pay to win. So no longer is this the case. It was fixed immediately, and now when you call an airdrop, it's more of a server-wide event because you can actually see the plane flying over, and anyone and everyone can follow it and try to take it from you or ambush you. So now they're highly contested, and they are now a lot more random, and many of them don't have guns in them. Only the rare crates do, and once again, those guns probably don't have ammo. The drops are of different types. This one here is empty, but it's a farmer drop. This one is going to come with some seeds and fertilizer and basically things to start a garden, which currently seeds don't work in the game, so this one is honestly kind of useless. But that's just random chance. And remember, these are something that you can choose to pay for, despite the fact that you might be ambushed trying to get them. Crates are another form of monetization in this game, and you'll need keys in order to open them. The crates themselves are given over time just by playing the game. The keys, however, need to be purchased, and the crates contain only one item, and that item is a skin for another item. So it's just cosmetics only, no guns, no items, just skins. So if you find a cool camo pattern skin for a hat, as an example, you still have to find the hat. It doesn't come with the item that it's a skin for. The other monetary items in the cash shop are event tickets, like I mentioned before, and these are also something you can earn just by playing the game. Kind of works like the arena in Hearthstone. But anyway, guys, hopefully that clears some stuff up. If you need more clarification that the game is no longer pay to win, there's plenty of info on the H1Z1 Reddit and homepage. Overall, I am having a blast with the game. I realize that it's early access, so there's going to be a lot of bugs, and it's not frustrating me at all. Clearly, it's not keeping other people from playing the game. And there's going to be constant changes, but that itself is something that I like seeing. dedicated support to the game. The only problem right now is the loot system, like I mentioned. There would be times where it would take forever just to find something, and the game was more like playing Don't Starve because fighting hunger and hydration was so much more difficult than the zombies themselves. But give it time and that too will be adjusted. Now, seeing that the game is in early access, just like some other SOE games, there is a buy-in price of $19.99 and a premium edition bundle. Both get you extra goodies like crates, airdrop tickets, and event tickets. And when the game launches, it will be free to play. The game is super popular so far, and it's only going to get better, so I'd say it's worth picking up in early access as is. For now, thanks for watching. If you're looking for more information about H1Z1, head over to the game profile at MMOHuts.com. And until next time, guys, that's going to be it for me. I'm James Blonde. See you out there, gamers. Hey, get out of my house.